I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the will run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. This conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers to give out.
Politics and sinners, they all the same. Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God. Neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all.
Good morning, 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 good morning. And I want to talk about Minneapolis exposed, right? I want to talk about corruption, contracts, and feeding our wait, that's yesterday or whenever I was on the last time. I didn't change it. Whoops. I want to talk about exposing the game, right? Corruption, betrayal, and the broken systems in Minneapolis, Minnesota, because people, that's the one thing I can tell that we're, we used to say when I came out of the couch, right? Came out of the house, the couch, whatever, into the streets, is that a man who falls for nothing will fall for anything. And that's what we're seeing, is that we have a bunch of individuals out here that we're seeing that it's not about the people. It's about a political agenda. It's about political parties. It's not about the people. So I want to get into that today. So before we get into any of that, I always play independent music, and I guess I didn't start that this morning. So with that being said, we're going to get into some music, and I'll be right back right after this. Say her name, say his name.
Just for Jasmine.
Say her name, say his name.
Just for Jasmine.
We rise from the ashes, we're the light, carrying the torches of those slain in the night.
I'm just hurt. Just for Jasmine.
I need to figure something out. Here we already go this morning. That's crazy. Why is that? Say her name, say his name. This morning. Say her name, say his name. Says it's playing.
Just for Jasmine.
All right, here goes. No justice, no peace, disturbing conservative, circumstantial saint, single beer. Say her name, say his name.
Just for Jasmine.
Say her name, say his name.
Just for Jasmine.
We rise from the ashes, we're reborn from the light, carrying the torches of those slain in the night.
I'm just hurt. Just for Jasmine.
Say her name, say his name. Or Brianna, or George, for every name left unsaid, for the daughters and sons, the undaunted edge. Say her name, say his name, let their stories be known.
Just for Jasmine.
Let their legacies live in the seeds we've sown. Say his name, say his name. trivialize our existence. They demonize our youth. Yet still our culture, our rhythm, our truths. But we see through the lie. We know the game. They fear our unity, our strength, our name. Amanda was a poet. Desmir was a king. Both stolen too soon. Before their songs, it seems. They lived as warriors, though the world denied. And now they march beside us, immortalized. The revolution's alive in the hearts of the young, in the beats of the drum, in the words on our tongues. It's in the murals painted on decaying walls, and in the chants that rise when another one falls. This isn't about hate, it's about a dream deterred. About the promises broken and justice is unheard. It's about redemption, about equity's light. Say her name, about reclaiming our power, God-given right. I walk through the hood and I see him, potential untapped, dreams deferred. Say her name, say his name. Brilliance wrapped in traps. Streets whisper stories of those who came before. Say her name, say his name. Of rebellion's waged and victory scored. Say her name, say. They try to erase us, but we won't be erased. Our history's written in the stars and space. Say her name, say his name.
I'm just hurt. Justice for Jasmine.
Say her name, say his name. From the pyramid of Kemet to the cotton fields, our resilience is the weapon no system can wield. Say her name, say his name. Say her name. To the confused soldier who lost their way, to the queens who forgot her names. They're the light of day. This is your reminder, your battle. Say her name, say his name. Say her name, say his name. Say her name, say his name. Say her. His name, his name, his name, his name. Say her name, say his name. Say her name, his name, his name. This is your reminder, your battle hymn. The revolution began when you look within. Say her name, say his name. 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 Say her name, say his name.
This undercover.
Say her name, say his name.
Going on, and this pack going on, and it's still killing our kids off and everything else.
Say her name, say his name.
That's how I feel. I'm just hurt, and justice for Jasmine.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And like I said, I want to bring to you Minneapolis Exposed, because we're exposing the game. And that's all that I basically want to point out today. You know, we know all understand, maybe we don't all understand, but this morning there is a Minneapolis City Council meeting going on that'll be starting at 9:30. And I want people to pay attention to that. I'm looking for some lives, and I'm going to play some things out throughout the whole time I'm on today, right? Because we're going to get into it, right? And but we have to go way back. So I want to play you a video that kind of explains more in detail. It's not really that long. But I want to. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't do this right. Hold on. Oh, there goes Marcus. He calling me. I got to hold on a minute. It's not coming on Facebook.
So from working on Marvin's case, I found a lot. Basically, to make a long story short, so from working on Marvin's case, I found a lot. The flower shop was actually a gambling, high stakes gambling place and whatever else, and like, there's a lot of corruption, okay, in Minneapolis, from like certain gang leaders working with the cops to get people thrown in jail. And what they were doing is some of them allegedly were on the cops were on the payroll of the gang, providing them with information that they could frame people with for like their opponents in that. Okay, and like there was a whole investigation into it right after Marvin's case, and that's when Lieutenant Keefe got demoted for bungling the FBI investigation. Okay, I have nothing against the guy; he did a real good job coming to testify for Marvin, but at the time there was some fishy stuff going on, and it goes back quite a ways, like to the 90s and earlier. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, people have to understand this isn't about contracts that's going on in Minneapolis, right? So I want to get into about the Minneapolis City Council today, right? They have a meeting, and it beefed up security. Supposedly, people feel threatened, and I want to play that. So here you go with that. They're talking about the Minneapolis City Council meeting today.
New tonight in Minneapolis, there are calls for beefed up security at tomorrow's City Council meeting. City Council member Robin Wansley says she and some of her colleagues received death threats this week.
This comes just a few days after an outburst at a council meeting over funding for violence intervention programs. Jay Cole's talked with Wansley and Reverend Jerry McAfee, the person she's accusing of making those threats.
Right at the beginning of Monday's City Council meeting, Reverend Jerry McAfee admonished council leaders for ignoring him and his organization, 21 Days of Peace.
I done paid the price for 35 years on these streets to try to make sure people safe. You will not ignore me.
When McAfee did not get a response from council members, he continued on.
And the way you looking at me, if you want to come behind that podium, you do it. I guarantee you will regret it.
City Council member Robin Wansley sent out this email Wednesday, which says sometime after McAfee's outburst, he made death threats against council members.
Threats of violence against elected officials or anyone just simply have no place in Minneapolis.
I asked for specifics about those threats, but she didn't give any, and simply said Mayor Jacob Frey's administration had mismanaged the violence prevention programs.
That level of misinformation should have never led to an escalation where members of the public is leveraging threats against elected officials.
Reverend McAfee denies making any threats.
Robin Wansley, shame on you. Jason Chavez, shame on you. And those of you who stand with that nonsense as the citizens are in peril and pain and you're playing childish games.
Wansley's email also says Commissioner of Community Safety Todd Barnett accused her of being motivated by some form of corruption. In a statement, Barnett denied those allegations and said, quote, "What Councilmember Wansley and other council members are trying to do avoids a fair process and is bad governance. There is not a single fact that they can point to in order to substantiate their claims as it applies to me and the administration." And Wansley did not specifically say what the beefed up security would look like at tomorrow's City Council meeting either. As for Reverend McAfee, he tells me he intends to be at that meeting, and he says he'll do so peacefully. Kevin?
So I want to get into something that happened a couple years ago. Now, I'm going to show y'all this isn't about,
so last time
it's about contracts, right? It's about Frey's administration and the DSA. It's nothing to do about the community. It's about the DID, the downtown district. It has nothing to do about North Minneapolis or the community. So you see Sharif, Sam,
He can tell me that himself.
Well, I can tell you that.
and Al.
You want somebody in front of your house?
Look at you. You did
look
this
at
is
you.
the exact same thing you did yesterday.
Now I'm doing it to you. Because you act like you want to be the bully, and we ain't got to go through them chains. You just need to call the game. Don't play. Take the picture.
What exactly?
Just make the claim.
What exactly are you
make
about
the
to
claim.
do? What exactly?
Make the claim, because you walked up on me yesterday.
Okay.
Now make the claim. Now I'm walking up
right
on
now,
you.
Yeah, you pressed
That's
up
right.
on me. You pressed
Right.
up
Damn
on me.
right I am.
So what are you
So
about to
you
do?
can understand what you about to do.
I'm not doing
Anything
nothing.
you want to do, I want to do.
I was
At
ready.
any level you want to do it.
Come on.
Now what level you want to do?
Aren't you a reverend?
That doesn't matter right now. You don't care
aren't you
about
a
that.
reverend?
That don't matter right now because you got me.
What exactly
So what
are
you
doing
want to
right
do?
now? I don't want to do anything.
Because you know who to do it with. You know who to do it with.
You can
You know who,
intimidate
and you think you can
And you-
intimidate
and you a
me,
man of
and I ain't
God.
went nowhere.
And you a
You
man
right,
of God.
and you ain't.
You
now
not
go
a
for
man
it.
of God.
Go for it.
That's not
Go
how a man
for
of
it.
God acts.
Go for it.
That's
Don't
not how
play,
a
boy.
man
Play
of
for it.
God
Now you
acts.
got a man who will
That's
stand
not
up to you
how
chumps.
a
But I'm
man
here
of
now.
God acts.
I'm here now.
It
Don't
ain't
play.
ain't
Don't
nobody
play,
backing
Buller,
down from
and
your
me
shit.
either. And I ain't
Ain't
backing down
nobody
from
backing
yours
down from your
either.
shit. That man
You don't like
is
it,
running
do
for
you?
public
You don't like it, do you?
office.
And now somebody in
That
your mug,
man
and you
is-
don't like it. I'm in
Have
yours.
have I ever
I'm in yours, bro.
disrespected
Because y'all
him
keep
like
playing.
this?
And I'm telling
Have
you,
I?
take a picture of this. If you want war, I'm ready for war. Any way
ain't
you
ready
want to do,
for
right?
war.
Matter of fact, turn your camera off
you can get
anyway.
on the-
Turn it.
The last time I checked,
That's crazy.
asking someone running
So
for public office,
I literally
his-
am trying to show y'all this has nothing to do with a contract. This is about Ray's administration. So here's another one. This is when we were doing question yet.
You can't even listen.
Number one, number two.
You're not saying anything. You're saying the same thing all the vote yes are saying. People are literally dying all over the country because of the I think there are some bad police. I think there are some bad apples. Okay. There are some bad apples. That's in anything that you hear from this department. Should be defined based off of. I'm not telling you. I'm based off of. No, I'm saying.
We understand.
You're from Minneapolis.
Every time.
Ain't back it up. He ain't back.
You guys are it's fine.
Y'all got to see what this is about. You have to understand what today is about. It's not about the community. It's not about the community. It's about organizations being able to get a profit. It's not about the community. We're still doing the same shit that we were doing back in the 90s when I was a kid.
I know many of these people. You got the All for Minneapolis shirts on. You know, I know people who have Victor Martinez signs in their yard.
I'm gonna start the show. I about to turn the volume up.
You can't even listen. I'm listening to you. You're not saying anything. You're saying the
That's
same thing
Shamika
all the
Boygan,
vote yes are
Bogan,
saying.
Bobby
People
Champion.
are literally dying all over the country because of the I think there are some bad police. I think there are some bad apples. Okay. There are some bad apples. That's in anything that you hear from this department. Should be defined based off of. I'm not telling you. I'm based off of. No, I'm saying.
We understand.
You're from Minneapolis. We can't talk in the
Y'all
same
ain't back it up. He ain't back.
You guys are fine. It's fine.
Know that.
You guys do not live
That's all too. We've been lied to. The black community has been misled, used, and they're still being used right now.
Right.
Many have been paid. I've talked to people who say, man, I just got this shirt on because they paying me $24 an hour. Man, I don't care about politics. I know many of these people who got the All for Minneapolis shirts on. You know, I know people who have Victor Martinez signs in their yard who said, man, I don't know who this guy is. They paid me $10 to put a sign in my front yard.
Has nothing to do about the community. Nothing. Has nothing to do about 36th and Penn. It has nothing to do about bettering the community, making sure the community is straight, because they're making sure their pockets are straight. Just like he said, Antonio Williams, right? Is that most of these cats out here aren't political. They're out here for the money. They're out here for the money. That's what I wanted to show people. They're for the money. This, you know what's crazy, because this is totally blowing up more than I ever thought that it would. Hold on. With indivisible and co-owners. Can't see it. Oh, that's Robin. Damn, that's when she was in Chicago. That's what I'm saying. This has nothing to do about the community. They're all fighting over their pockets. They're all fighting over their pocket. I can't see that, but I think it's Robin. Yeah, that's crazy as hell. It has nothing to do about It's phrase administration, and it's administrations that have nothing to do with us. DSA, it has to do with phrase administration of where they can keep on. This is what the lady said. I want to see if I can find that interview, because she's telling individuals, like, don't let the council pass this to Hennepin County. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Let them be able to deal with it themselves. Investigate, you know, because you're throwing off without actually dealing with the problem. You're just passing the buck. If people listen to Miss Brown, the prior director of the neighborhood safety, all she was saying was like, listen, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be dealt with. What I'm saying is that investigate, because there's more to the story. People got money, but what's being done in our communities? What's being done in Minneapolis? That's what I will never understand, is like, how can we as people sit here and say we're doing one thing and we're actually not, you know? And that's the one thing, because I'm sitting here beating up myself, right? Because, you know, I feel like I got a hand in this fight, but then with everything, with, you know, medically and, you know, things like that, it's like, damn, Chad, you got to sit down, you got to worry about you. But then who's going to worry about the community? Because if not us, then who? Because a lot of people got their own individualities involved. They're worried about them. You know, that's the one I put up there this morning is, you know, a lot of people don't know the connections. They're not following the money. They're who they're friends with. Because if you notice, when you go to these meetings or there's pictures that come out, you see people sitting by each other. You see people talking to each other. So how, you know, that's the one crazy thing that I will never understand, right? Is somebody will like, oh, he's not like that. Do you not know who you to be out? Here's the thing of it is, right? It doesn't, not everybody's built for this shit. And it takes years of leather, tough skin to be out here. You know, I was on the other side of that shit. I was on the other side of the gun, the totally other side of it. And now I'm on the side of like, bring it. Because to me, these politicians are more dirtier than these niggas on the streets. They make deals with niggas on the streets. That's why I tell people all the time, you know, I woke up this morning, I was going through a couple of things, you know, that was on, you know, Facebook and Twitter, and they were talking about, you know, Jerry, they were talking about DA, they were talking about Robin, Jason, but a couple of posts took me to 2008. And not many people remember that. You know, that's the, I heard Reverend Tim Christopher said last night, he didn't know Jerry carried. What do you mean you didn't know Jerry carried? Have you never seen, like, come on, man. That's how I know that people, we're not, no. Some people are gullible and naive. They're naive. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, this is the one thing that I want people to see. It was going on in Minneapolis is you have the defund crowd like Robin Walmsley, Jason Chavez, and they coming out with this, oh, we're feeling scared, we're feeling threatened. And then you have Jerry's side with Frey. They wanted to not give the money back to the community. They wanted to be able to share in. And I'm not saying that the police department shouldn't be involved, but until we get some answers, some change, why do we keep on trying to include people that every time that we got to call out some shit? Because until it hits your front door, you know, that's the one crazy part is if you heard and you probably didn't because you guys, you know, we're not political like that. But if you watch what's coming out in the Katie Blackwell lawsuit versus Alpha News, Liz Collins, and JC and them, you would see that there's not many officers because they probably don't want to get involved, but there is think, what did Chris say, Madeo? There's 34 written affidavits that they have from former and I think there's 14 current officers that wrote an affidavit saying that she perjured herself on the stand. Now, it takes balls. I'm just like the same thing Robert said about Keith this morning. That takes balls, because to do the right thing, you know, even what Blackwell said, there were some key things that she said that officers started to look at her differently because she testified against Derek. She broke that blue line. So her just saying that right there, that just shows you, even when officers think they're like, they believe that their brothers and sisters are in the wrong, they're still treated like shit because they testified, because they did this. So when is it that we do the right thing and people are looked down upon? We have to get out of that. We have to get out of that. You know, and I want people to understand. I want people to understand, like, this is to me, right? And I'm sick of the naive bullshit. I'm sick of these you know, talking about, oh, I'm a pastor. Well, let's have a talk, pastor. Let's have a talk, reverend. Let's have a talk when you was a leader in the vice lords. And you had a man that supposedly is a violence interrupter, right? As a part of 21 Days of Peace, Sharif Willis. And we all know he went to talk to Paul Wellstone. He said how the U.S. government was leaving crates of drugs and guns over north. Nobody wanted to believe him or help him. So if you can't beat them, join them. Everybody's got a price. That's what if you're not understanding that this is all one big clusterfuck, and that this is all about a bag. It's not about doing what's right for the community. It's not about, because they don't listen. They only listen to certain people. They don't listen to all voices. They only listen if you're a stakeholder. Because what I don't understand is that Marvina came on here on Facebook and she's not picking sides. She wants transparency. And the crazy thing of it is, you had a whole Jerry McAfee's out here, y'all asking questions about city council, but this nigga won't answer questions about what happened to Marvin Haynes. Who did y'all pay to lie? Who did you pay to lie? Let's get back to that. If Black lives really matter, why ain't y'all out here demanding answers for Black lives? A man that spent 18 years in prison, that Jerry McAfee helped railroad along with Amy Klobuchar. She was the district attorney at that time. And we out here fighting for some bullshit. I will never understand that. What are niggas really about? Y'all jump to the one thing that is full of fame and full of clout. That ass. Y'all don't even care about lives. You don't even care. Because this is the one thing, I don't know. On Facebook, y'all bringing up, well, they doing this, they doing that. On Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, they going in. They going on this nigga's history. Talking about you was building affordable housing, but then yet you're in and with lawsuits up the ass about property in Minneapolis. Let's talk. You're a property owner, West Salem Baptist Church. Look at how many complaints you have. It's all public info, but see, you niggas are too dumb. Oh, is it a news conference? Okay. All right, I'm about to go find it. Who's it on? Is it Fox? Is it Minneapolis? Let me see. Subscriptions. I'm gonna start to see who's live. Because it's about to be a hell of a day today. It's about to be a hell of a day. Not only in Minneapolis, but then you have what's going on at the House. There's so much fraud and corruption and mismanagement and waste. And it's time we have a talk about it. It's time we have a talk about it. Oh, Fox 9 is live, but I don't know if that's it. Oh, yep, there it is. Yes, sir.
The two-of-a-kind drawings at
Fox 9. There we go. And I bet you can't hear shit either, can we? Nope, so I ain't doing this one. That's the one that it was. Yeah, I ain't doing that one because I couldn't hear. Like I can't hear now. Janky ass shit. But that is the Minneapolis City Council. I wonder, you know what? I can go there directly to their page. Maybe that one will work. See, it's Minneapolis. Damn, because I don't even see Fox 9 live. I can see Minneapolis. Minneapolis City Council. Today's the 13th, 9:30. So we're going to play this one instead. That says it's supposed to start, but I bet you it's going to be late. But that was the inside of it. Oh, yeah. That's why. That's what I thought. So now I can hear. No, you see Koski, Rainville, they go Chavez. We're going to play them both. Fuck it. Aisha, she coming in. They late. How you going to start a meeting at 9:30? You niggas is late. I don't get that shit. We go Palisano. I believe she's talking to Shake Tire. Koski talking to Payne. Koski running for mayor. I want to know what this beeped up ass security look like. Who doing the press conference? Where can I find that at? There go Wansley. There go Osmond. I know them all. I get them all down. People need to read. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. You dead ass, Ben. People need to read. They need to pick up a book, and we need to, that's the one there, Vital. How can we get mad if we're not paying attention? If we're not paying attention to what's going on in our surroundings, right? And I'm talking about our education system and our, these things every year get passed. These things are talked about all the time. They're voted on about. And if you're not paying attention, somebody's arms in the way. If you're not paying attention, then what are you doing? If you're not paying attention, what are you doing? Oh, you good. Right. I know I wasn't getting in deep. And that's the one crazy thing of it is, Rob, Robert, is we need to get into it deep. We need to have a conversation, because they're so quick to, I'm sure they're always going to be late. They want to, what's in the news, but nobody ever wants to talk about the past. We talk about this blood on hands. Let's talk about that blood because we are innocent. There's going to be a press conference today up in Rush City, Minnesota, in the prison with Philip Vance. When are we going to free people that we literally have no evidence against, no physical? And then we throw away cases, like Randy's flower shop. How does it? That's the one thing. Marvin had to pay for a crime he never committed. He had to pay for a crime he never committed. He never committed. I don't understand that. It's like, when will you stand up for what's right and not always what's wrong? You want to be a part of the yes crowd because you're afraid to be on the other side of looking at your friend, of looking at your brother, your sister. But hey, stand on what you believe in. Stand in what you believe in. I don't understand that. How do people get so afraid? And then I get it. We live in a system that is not meant for us. It's not meant for us. None of this is. You know what I'm saying? It's like we are offered to be amendments and damn, she looking old. I don't know if anybody talking yet. No, maybe not yet. No. Because I don't even think they gone live over here yet on their website. Let's see. Nope. A lot of people watching on waiting. 65 waiting. Niggas is waiting on this meeting, man. Oh, here we go.
Could we?
Oh. City Council.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elliot Payne. I'm the president of Minneapolis City Council, and I'm going to call this regular meeting of the City Council for February 13th to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Cashman.
Present.
Councilmember Osman.
Present.
Councilmember Rainville.
Present.
Councilmember Chavez.
Present.
Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Councilmember Ellison is absent. Councilmember Koski.
Present.
Councilmember Wansley.
Present.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Present.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Present.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Present.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Present.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Present.
Vice President Shugtai.
Present.
President Payne.
Present.
There are 12 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum.
Damn.
Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members and staff that this meeting is broadcast live to enable greater public participation. The broadcast includes real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. Additionally, I will note as a general advisory that the rules of the City Council do not provide for public comment to be made at meetings of the full council. The purpose of council meetings is to conduct the business of the city. It is not a public forum for public comments. Meetings are open to the public for observance only, as required under the Minnesota Open Meetings Law. Consistent with council rules, those who disturb these proceedings and interfere with the ability of the City Council to conduct the city's business will be asked to leave. Those who refuse to follow these instructions will be removed from the chamber. I especially want to stress that we have zero tolerance for any comments directed at any specific religion, race, gender, or sexual identity. With that, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, hopefully members will find at their desk. On your behalf, the clerk's office has put forward a motion to amend the agenda to include under the order of new business, or I'm sorry, notice of ordinances, an introduction of a subject matter related to the Community Commission on Police Oversight, specifically to the membership of the review panels. Apologies, this was an error on my part not to get this on the agenda, so it's not on the printed agenda, but it is a notice to introduce the subject matter of an ordinance to address the review panels that are staffed by or are used by the Community Commission on Police Oversight for conduct review for police misconduct cases, and I can speak more to that when we get to that item, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Council Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I wanted to move to amend the agenda to include in the order of notice of introductions and notice of intent relating to the Community Commission on Police Oversight Review Panel temporary assignments as outlined by the clerk.
But people don't know.
Second.
The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison is absent. Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries, and that motion is added to the agenda. Next, I will recognize Councilmember Cashman.
I've just been told by Clerk Ken that I can add this on to item 9 on the C&I agenda, and I don't need to amend the agenda.
Sounds good.
Nothing left on that.
I will then ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison is absent. Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries and the agenda is adopted. The next item is acceptance of minutes from our regular meeting of January 30th. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries and the minutes have been accepted. Finally, we have the referral of petitions, communications, and reports to proper committees. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries and those matters have been referred. The next order of business is presentations of our reports from standing committees. Those are taken in alphabetical order, beginning with the report of our Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee, which will be presented by its chair, Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, President Payne. The Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee is bringing forward 16 items for consideration. The first is a gift acceptance from the Metropolitan Police Department. The second is a gift acceptance from the New Jersey Environmental Health Association. Third is a gift acceptance from Hello Heart of Travel and Lodging. Number 4 is a bid for Bridge 9 improvements. Number 5 is contract amendments with senior services providers. 6 is contract amendments with Cornerstone Advocacy Service for sexual assault case advocacy services. 7 is a contract amendment with House Brokerage, Inc. for hauling and disposal agricultural liming materials. 8 is a contract amendment with Family Tree Clinic for sexual health services for youth. 12 is a legal settlement workers' compensation claim of Ricardo Muro. 13 is a legal settlement workers' compensation claim of Jonathan Petron. And then 14 is a legal settlement workers' compensation claim of Michael. All items for approval. Is there any questions?
Councilmember Wansley has moved approval of the committee.
Marvina Watson.
Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you for campaign. I'd just like to move items 12 through 15 for a separate vote.
Councilmember Chavez has moved items 12 to 15 for a separate vote. Is there any discussion on the remainder of the items? Councilmember Koski.
Thank you, Council President Payne, and I just wanted to speak to item number 16 regarding the fire department recruitment. So, colleagues, before you is a staff direction that will guide our policy and research division in conducting a landscape review of municipal fire department recruitment and retention practices. This review will focus specifically on the hiring and recruitment of female candidates, examining the challenges, identifying opportunities, and comparing our practices to national best practices. Women remain significantly underrepresented in emergencies.
In conducting a landscape review of municipal fire department recruitment and retention practices. This review will focus specifically on the hiring and recruitment of female candidates, examining the challenges, identifying opportunities, and comparing our practices to national best practices. Women remain significantly underrepresented in emergency services, both locally and nationally. As the demands on the field continue to grow and change, it is imperative that we remain proactive, ensuring our workforce is not just capable and well-equipped, but also diverse and reflective of the community that we serve. In 2022, we marked the 30th anniversary of the first all-women crew in the Minneapolis Fire Department. Since then, I've had ongoing conversations with the Minneapolis Women's Firefighter Association about the decline in female representation. It's an issue we see as early as the application process through to hiring. We must change these outcomes. To do that, we need to critically examine the barriers that exist, identifying the opportunities for improvement, and take decisive action to support recruitment and retention. Representation is not just a numbers game. It's about ensuring that every person in our community, regardless of gender, has an equal opportunity to pursue a career in fire services and can see themselves in that role. Across the country, fire departments have successfully implemented innovative strategies to strengthen recruitment, reduce turnover, and build more inclusive workforces. By studying these approaches and assessing how they might apply to our own department, we can ensure that Minneapolis leads the way in building a fire department that truly mirrors the diversity of the people it serves. This is our opportunity to ensure that the work we do today sets a stronger and more inclusive foundation for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I added myself to queue. I wanted to speak on item number 11, the Joint Powers Agreement for the embedded social worker in 911. This is something, before I ran for city council, I was working on the team that ultimately launched the behavioral crisis in one of the largest new programs in public safety that has emerged from that body of work. But at the same time that we brought forward recommendations around BCR, we had also brought forward recommendations about embedding a social worker in 911. And it's just really great to start seeing some of those ideas come to fruition and get implemented. We'll be seeing this again under our budget committee report for the transfer of funds for that. But it's just really exciting to see how something that started back in 2019 is becoming a reality here today. And with that, seeing no one else in queue, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the committee report, except for items 12 through 15.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and those items are adopted. Next, we will take up items number 12 through 15. And seeing no one in queue, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
No.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye. Sorry, nay.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye. Oh, nay.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes and 3 nays.
That carries, and those items are adopted. I'll also note for the record that we've been joined by Councilmember Ellison. The next report is from our Budget Committee, and that report will be presented by that committee's chair, Vice President Chugtai.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget Committee will be bringing 4 items to today's council meeting. Item number 1 is approving an appointment to the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee for Seat 6. Item number 2 is passage of a resolution for the City Hall project for audiovisual broadcast and captioning equipment for the council chamber. Item number 3 is passage of a resolution moving funds to the Minneapolis Emergency Communications Center, or 911, to support the Joint Powers Agreement for an embedded social worker. And finally, item number 4 is considering a resolution approving violence prevention funding for Hennepin County. This item was forwarded without recommendation, so I will move items 1 through 3 for approval and set aside item number 4 for a separate discussion and vote, and I'm happy to make a motion so we can begin discussion on item number 4 when that is appropriate.
Vice President Chugtai has moved items 1 through 3, and we will take up item 4 separately. Is there any discussion on items 1 through 3? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins. Aye. Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and those items are adopted. Next, I will recognize Vice President Chugtai to speak on item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will move item number 4 for approval.
Council Vice President Chugtai has moved item number 4 for approval. Is there any discussion? Is there a second? Any discussion? Councilmember Vita.
Thank you, Chair. A few things. First, I just want to talk about the item itself. I said earlier this week I'm not going to be supporting this item. First, because I believe this is our work to do as the Minneapolis City Council, and we should not be moving this work to the county. Secondly, I think by moving this to the county, we're doing the opposite of what I'm hearing from constituents that they want to see. They want to see us doing our work. And this is the second thing on this agenda today where I feel like we're working against what the people of Minneapolis have asked us to do. First thing being George Floyd Square. People have spoken to what they want to see happen, and there's been way too much conversation, in my opinion, against what people are asking for. And that's the same thing with this. I've had an overwhelming amount of people reach out to me and say they want us to do this work. They elected us to do this work, not us to pass this work on to another government body. And so I'm confident that we can do it. I'm confident in our abilities of leadership. We have a Department of Public Safety that is tasked with doing this work. And if something is happening, then I think the public should know about it. I looked at the presentation again. I read Councilmember Wansley's memo, and there's nothing in there that shows proof of anything. What I read was Councilmember Wansley's personal opinion about what she thinks is happening in the Department of Neighborhood Safety, in particular with this work, and why she thinks this work should be moved to the county. There's no data to support it. There's nothing that says that the commissioner and his department has done anything wrong. So I can't buy into that because it's just not true. And then I want to add, the other day, the conversation got extremely heated. Reverend McAfee and I, we don't always agree, but I do understand his passion for community and the way he approaches community. It's not always okay, but I get it. I called him after a lot of times. I talked to him before. I felt a bit of responsibility because I had told him last week that he should speak to the chair and the vice chair of public safety with some of the concerns he had. And when he showed up here, the first thing he said was people weren't returning his calls. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see people infuriated a lot more when folks aren't answering their calls. When people don't return calls, people get upset. And they show up at council meetings and they express their feelings. And that's what I believe happened earlier this week with Reverend McAfee. I personally did not feel threatened by Reverend McAfee, but I have a different relationship with Reverend McAfee. I know for a fact that Reverend McAfee does not know about certain people's sexuality because he told me that. And so to call him homophobic or use words that I don't believe is true, it's not okay. It's happened to me on this council. Leadership on this council has let things get out of hand because they won't call out everybody for wrongdoing. Leadership on this council picks and chooses. I sat here on the dais, actually in City Hall, and was called the N-word, and I watched my colleagues get up and go take photos with the people who called me out of my name. I was personally attacked by people, and majority of my council members, when I asked for additional security, told me that I was trying to stop people from using their First Amendment right to speak. Majority of this council never even checked on me. Councilmember Ellison did. Asked me how I was doing. We had a difference of opinion that day, but he cared more about my safety than anything. But majority of my colleagues didn't care, didn't even address it. To this day, hasn't addressed it. Literally told me that I was trying to stop people from talking by asking for additional security. I have someone stalking me right now, walked up behind me Tuesday with a pair of scissors. And people are in here making a big deal about someone coming here vocally expressing themselves when they've told me it's okay for people to come into these chambers and say what they want to say. If it's me, it's okay. That's what I mean by you got to hold everybody accountable. Reverend McAfee was infuriated because somebody sat here and ate an apple in his face like he wasn't talking. Body language is everything. I've been checked on my body language, on my tone by constituents since I was elected. And guess what I've had to do? Apologize and fix it. People have told me about the things that I've done wrong sitting on the dais, the ways in which they felt disrespected by my actions, and I've apologized to them because that is how they feel. I didn't double down on them and tell them, no, now you trying to do something. I never heard him say anything about a gun or harming somebody. That never happened. It's not okay for people to imply and embellish things that are not true. It's enough stuff going on in this city for us to be doing the work that people tasked us to do. I don't want us to lose sight of what's happening here. The issue before us was about money being moved to the county. The council not doing our work and relying on the county to do something that we should be doing. People should be returning Reverend McAfee's calls and anybody else that's reaching out, trying to voice their opinion about the crime that's going on in this city, about the work and the things they're seeing every day in this city, in all parts of this city. Believe me, it's not a North Side thing anymore. It's happening everywhere in this city. And what he's talking about is about everywhere in this city. He sees it, and there's so many more people who see it. And so we shouldn't lose sight of that. You can't be taking the blame off of what's actually happening here and using an incident and policing everybody's words. There are cultural things that happen. There are things we say culturally that other people don't say. I woke up this morning and I was thinking about how if somebody black called you a bad mamma jamma, you're not bad, you fine. You look good. But to some people, bad means bad. That's not how it works. There are some things, there are language that we use. There's a whole TikTok thing about how white slang is the opposite of black slang. We use words differently. And we got to give people room to make mistakes. That's the biggest thing. If somebody makes a mistake, give them room to fix it. But I want to make sure that today that the conversation is not lost in what's before us, and that is, it is our job to do the work of the city of Minneapolis, not to pass it on to another agency.
Councilmember Cashman.
Oh, thank you, President Payne. I'm going to speak directly on the item that's before us, the considering a resolution to approve funding for Hennepin County for the GVI and YGVI services. And I just want to say that I think as a member of the Administration Enterprise Oversight Committee, I think it's right that we as a council are sounding the alarm about the Neighborhood Safety Department. We've just lost a new director. We do not have a position filled for GVI and YGVI. Almost half of the positions in this department are vacant right now. And so it is our job as council members to provide oversight over this department and to say, hey, something's not working. What's not working here? And when we look over to the county, we see experts in YGVI, people who actually built the YGVI and GVI departments here at the city are working over there. So I think it is worth sounding the alarm, and I think that's something that we all agree on here, that there needs to be more work from the Office of Community Safety and with council and with the mayor's office to develop this department and to make sure it's successful. But all that being said, I had a chance to talk again with the deputy director of NSD this week and a procurement leader from the department. And I really see that all of the violence prevention programming that we have at the city, it fits together. It works together. It's part of integrated strategies. And I'm worried that if we just try to take out one Jenga piece, which is GVI and YGVI, and pass that over to the county, that the puzzle might all fall. And I can't support taking out that piece. I'm not going to be supporting the motion that was brought forward here today. And I think that we should recommit ourselves to working with the department and working with the staff that we have here at the city and rebuilding the capacity of NSD.
Vice President Chugtai.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we've been discussing this item, I think a lot has unfolded, especially since our Budget Committee meeting on Monday afternoon. I would imagine this is true for colleagues, but I know I have received hundreds of form-generated emails, repeating allegations of wrongdoing and questioning the integrity and motivations of our members as it relates to this item. I hope we can all agree that this is a really serious matter. So to make sure I have all the information, I need to take a vote on this item today. I just had a few questions for Commissioner Barnett, if that's amenable.
Commissioner Barnett.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here today, Commissioner. Before the budget committee meeting on Monday, and again, I'm just trying to understand, I believe this is a really serious matter, so just trying to get some more information so that I have all the information I need. I feel the body has all the information we need, the public has all the information they need to continue discussing this matter. So before the budget committee meeting on Monday, I understand you held a press conference here at the Public Service Center regarding this item. And during that press conference, you stated that, and I'm quoting here, unfortunately, several council members chose only to support the efforts that would benefit them or their favorite nonprofit. The selective and self-serving approach not only hampers the integrity of the work, but also undermines the important progress being made by our neighborhood safety department. And then when asked by a reporter if you were implying that council members, or particularly Councilmember Wansley, were trying to move this money to benefit their favorite nonprofits, you responded with, I say, look at all the facts. So I'm trying to understand the facts and trying to understand which council members this might be about. I'm wondering if you can just briefly name which council members you might have been referring to. Commissioner.
Good morning, Chair Chuck Ty. Here's what I will start with. I got here in October of 2023. At that time, I started working with Director Nelson Brown. About November or December of 2023, doing the budget amendments, I was before council. And at that time, money was being moved to neighborhood safety. And I said at that time, let neighborhood safety build capacity. We got to build the infrastructure. And as we moved along, we improved the invoicing process. As we moved along, we improved the RFP process, took out bias. As we moved along, we improved the procurement process.
Commissioner,
Yes.
I really apologize. I'm sorry to interrupt you. My question was, can you tell me which council members you were referring to in the comments?
Chair Chuck Ty, I'm getting to that. And I'm explaining all the facts.
No, I just want to know which council members you were referring to. It's okay if you don't want to answer the question. I can move on to the next one.
I am trying to lay out the facts of where we are.
But my question was...
I hear your question, but I'm laying out the facts.
Do you want to answer my question, or?
I like to lay out the facts to answer your question.
Okay.
As we moved along, several of us, meaning council members, the mayor, myself, were getting contacted by community organizations, community members, and they were frustrated. And they were frustrated because they were saying they weren't getting paid. And every time someone asked me about it in an individual group, you look at it, we went back to here are the criteria that we use for invoicing. If there's something wrong with the documentation, we're not going to pay you. That was where we were. We were setting expectations. While we were doing that, council members continue to say what's going on with neighborhood safety as we're building it. When we got to getting the infrastructure in place, reclassifying positions.
Commissioner, I'm nearly out of time, so I just want to move on. I suppose to the next question. I don't
I'm
think.
going to lay out all the facts. I said follow the facts. I'm laying out the facts.
But that wasn't the question I asked you. I asked you for specific council members. I understand that that's not an answer that I'm going to receive here today or this body will receive here today. So in an interview with KSTP that was published on Monday evening of this week, and I'm quoting the article explicitly here, you said, unfortunately, several council members chose only to support the efforts that would benefit them or their favorite nonprofit. Further, in a Star Tribune op-ed you authored also later on Monday, you stated, and again I'm quoting directly, it is an understatement to say that offloading an entire line of business to the county simply because some council members don't like who was selected undermines all oversight and accountability at the city. So I'm wondering, can you provide any evidence or share with us what information you have that I don't have or this body doesn't have, clearly, that led you to make this very serious allegation of unnamed members?
You're at time.
Thank you.
We'll have to move on to Councilmember Palmisano. You can get, looks like you're back in queue.
Mr. Chair, I didn't want to interrupt in the middle there, but point of order, Mr. Chair, is the cross-examination of the commissioner here to make a political point? Is the point to attempt to demean or harass professional staff here today? It seems to me there's no purpose behind this line of questioning except to put the commissioner in a difficult position. So I suggest we get to the notion that Vice President put on the floor for us. This isn't debate. She doesn't even seem to give the commissioner time to respond.
So you're ascribing motive. It seemed to me that there was a direct question around
that was not relevant to the debate on the floor here and the decision that we are making today.
We're talking about the move of funds from the city to the county to oversee certain programming.
And she's making a personal accusation at the commissioner.
No, we're trying to understand the accusations around the motivation of those moves.
So let me continue. I'll first need to look at what I said at committee in a summarized way. We have a department and a previous department leader, Luana Nelson Brown, who stood her ground and refused to pay invoices without documentation. That should be commended, not villainized. Upon settlement of the Coppola lawsuit, they worked hard to meet or exceed all requirements of rigor, removal of bias, and creation of a system to help support vendors and the creation of a new request for proposal with blind review of the proposals and further management of the contracts. To me, that's commendable. To me, we're ready to move forward. But even if you believe that we need more time for reform, even if you believe that we have overwhelmed leadership, even if you believe there would be no additional cost to recreate this effort over across the street at the county, even if you disagree with me and the minority of others on this dais, you must know this would negatively impact all violence interruption, all GVI and YGVI work. There would be a large gap in service at least. In fact, it would guarantee that this critical GVI and YGVI work cannot continue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time. Honestly, I'm a little bit at a loss for the words at this moment. First off, I guess want to start off by apologizing to the public because the amount of misinformation and disinformation that is just swirling around in our chambers and through the media has been untenable. I just do not believe the public is getting the accurate information about what's going on here. And I do believe if we're having a discussion about funding a debatable policy item, a policy discussion about moving GVI and YGVI funding to the county, which is a reputable organization that does this work and has robust contracting and accountability tools and mechanisms, it's a policy discussion we should be having. But however, if the Commissioner of Public Safety is going to make statements accusing council members of enriching themselves or picking nonprofits or moving things out of their own interests, that is something that should be questioned and we should discuss, because as a council member, I don't know if he's speaking about me or not. And I can say for a fact, I spent time with the commissioner and members of our neighborhood safety department at the budget process, talking to them about why safety in the Hiawatha neighborhood was important. And we talked about how we would work together. And I figured out how much funding would be needed to be moved through them. And we worked together on that. So I am just aghast at the fact that all of these accusations are going out and we can't even have a public forum to ask, okay, where is this coming from? So we can get the facts, but also everyone in our community can hear it. I think this should have remained a policy debate, but it has gone far and out beyond this at this point. And I think also it is revisionist history to say that our neighborhood safety department having 2 commissioners over time, major staff turnover, not being able to execute contracts, going into a lawsuit is somehow the council not doing their work. No, the council doesn't get to determine the operations of a city department. That falls squarely under the commissioner and the mayor of the city. Our job is oversight and budgeting, and currently we're in an oversight process because a lawsuit for not being able to fulfill invoices correctly or have accountability measures is serious. Okay? The county is not in a lawsuit and didn't have to do a settlement. The city of Minneapolis had to. And so I think it is absolutely a discussion that we should be having about moving to a different agency. And even if there's no malintent in neighborhood safety not being able to do the work that they needed to do, because it's difficult work, there might be a capacity issue. There might be problems within the department with all the work that they have been forced to take on, especially following 2020, especially shifting from the Office of Violence Prevention to Neighborhood Safety Department. And we should question, okay, maybe we can just take this set of programming that needs to happen, that service providers that the county contracts with and the city contracts with need to serve our youth. That needs to happen. Maybe we just take it out of our hands as the city of Minneapolis and bring it over to the county temporarily so our house in the city of Minneapolis can be in order, so our neighborhood safety department can be in order. I think that's a fair discussion to have, and that's where this started. But what it's turned to is inflamed statements, media press conferences, misinformation that I would say is squarely put out by the Office of Community Safety, Commissioner Todd Barnett, and we are trying
That's describing motivation right there. Come on. Get order here. Show some leadership, Council President.
What? Continue.
I won't describe it. I respect your. Okay, I respect what you said, so I will stop. How about that?
Thank you.
All right, there you go. But I do think misinformation is going on, and that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of, because it has inflamed this community and it has led threats that were pushed at council members.
Keep going. Tell the truth.
Please.
What I perceive to be as a threat, if someone says, I didn't hurt anybody, I didn't shoot anybody. However, I will if I have to, which is something that was said in a live video. And we have to reckon with that fact. That's a perceivable threat, and I'm not only speaking for myself, but I'm speaking for the public, because this is the people's chamber, and people deserve to feel safe when they come to City Hall.
Oh, shit, here we go
and
crying.
that was not what happened on Monday, and that's not what's happening today. And I don't see us coming together as a city of Minneapolis, our city council and our mayor's office and our Office of Community Safety standing up to that, because that should have never happened, because this is a policy discussion.
Right.
Misinformation and disinformation pushed out into the press that inflames people, encourages violence. We've seen that over and over again in our country.
Right.
And I'm not going to stand for it and allow for it to happen here in the city of Minneapolis. And I apologize to the people of Minneapolis that this is even occurring. And I look to our leadership, I look to our mayor, I look to the commissioner of the Office of Community Safety to take some leadership here, take some accountability, and for us to find a way to reset. Because this has just gotten way out of hand.
Councilmember Osman.
Thank you so much, Council President. The conversation we're having is moving money to the county, and here's how we got here. We represent City of Minneapolis and residents of Minneapolis, and if they're not getting the services they deserve, yes, we have the right to think about where can we take those services so they can be more effective. In my experience with neighborhood safety has not been great. I believe this department has been inactive. They say it right here for the last couple of years that they don't have the staff to do it. They are short staffed. There's a quote that says 1 staff for 100 contractors. So yes, we have a responsibility as leaders to take a step back and use our resources and resident taxes to make sure that we're providing the services residents deserve. We have passed many amendments and many budget markups for specific neighborhoods that are struggling with addiction and homelessness and safety. And those items, or budget items, are left behind and wait until end of the year, and they go back on the general budget funding. So, yes, I do want to thank Council Member Wansley for her leadership, spending a lot of time trying to find an effective way to use resident taxes. And that's what we're debating. And I believe we have the right to do that. But people have said that we have not been threatened. I haven't heard threatened. I got threatened. I got threatened. I have no relationship. I have no idea. The Reverend McAfee that got here, he spoke. I listened to him. I have the right to talk to him, to call, to make call his calls, return his calls. But he has. Nobody has no rights to threaten me or to threaten my community. Yes, come out behind that jumper and you'll see what happened. I will do you know what. Somali council member hates blacks. I can't hate my own. This division between African American or Somali or any other community, it's not acceptable. I wanted to say that we're here to do the community work, and we should be protected, and we should not be threatened. But right now, the item in front of us, I want to get back to that item in front of us, is to move that money. I had a side conversation with Commissioner, and I appreciate him getting back to me. I was looking for the answer to say, if we move this $1.2 million to the county, how will that affect other programs that City of Minneapolis is providing to the residents? That question has not been answered. And so if this money will affect other programs like Minneapolis S program that are existing right now, it will be hard for me to vote on this item. But if we can get the number to how much money we can move, that it will not affect the services we're doing right now, then I will be willing to vote on that. But I have not received that answer. And we did ask publicly last meeting if that question could be answered, but we were told that it's not a public information and there's no way to estimate that. So, yes, thank you, Council President. That's all for me today.
Councilmember Rainville.
I will not be voting for this today. This flies in the face of what our professional staff has done to add accountability and transparency to this unarmed safety program. The same accountability and transparency that we hold our police department to. Unfortunately, some of the vendors that have gotten money in the past were no longer selected to go forward, and that's why this is coming forward today. The public needs to know this is coming forward today because there are vendors that were not chosen that have gone in the past.
I think
our
you're ascribing
taxpayers
motive.
deserve better. And as we move forward, I would like to give my word to the Reverend McAfee that I'll do what I can to work with our public safety chair and vice chair to have you come and speak in the proper format at the proper time. Count on that. In remarks to someone had mentioned the lawsuit, that lawsuit began because of the lack of accountability and transparency several years ago. It had nothing to do with the current administration. That's the truth. And for my final remarks, I think it is important that we talk about safety for staff and for elected officials. And to build on what Councilmember Vita said, the same meeting that she was threatened at, my family was threatened, I was threatened. People were willing to come over that dais at us, and not a word was spoken by any of you in sympathy to us. So I'm glad to see that you finally realized that elected officials should be safe in these chambers, in the people's chambers. So let's go forward and treat everybody the same, unlike what happened in the past to Councilmember Vita and to myself and my family.
I will just say this, leadership does take your safety seriously, and we've made sure that there's precautions. And unfortunately, I wasn't in leadership at that time. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Council President Payne. I kind of want to go back to some of the comments that were said because I need to make sure that my community hears that they matter and that in any instances, especially in the climate that we are in where our LGBTQIA plus community is under attack, that any form of homophobia, transphobia is unacceptable in the city of Minneapolis. Heterophobic, little girl, I'll see you again, that's a promise. I have not hit nobody, I ain't shot nobody, however, I will if I have to. You know, for the longest time, I never wanted to come out the closet, and I'm going to say it. I never wanted to come out the closet, and it took me after college to come out the closet, and I did. I'm going to finish speaking. I never wanted to come out the closet. I told myself I was going to be straight my whole life. I told myself I was going to be straight my whole life because I was scared of the attacks that I would get. Getting bullied for being gay growing up. Getting bullied for speaking like a little girl growing up. So yeah, when someone calls you a little girl and you're gay, that is homophobic, period. When someone uses the word heterophobic is not a thing. Heterophobic is not a thing. To be very clear, it is not a thing.
Please.
I'll see you again. That's a promise. That's a threat. I ain't shot nobody. However, I will shoot. I will if I have to. That is a threat. And, you know, and I'm going to say it because I feel like for the past two meetings, this is not being acknowledged.
Yes, he did.
It has not been talked about.
Facebook Live video.
It is wrong. It is unacceptable. And I am proud to be gay.
I don't know if it was directed at Jason.
I am very proud to be gay.
But
and I will keep on saying that because I am proud.
But I'm just going to stop it because I know it's going to get emotional. But I will say this is that Jerry did say that he would shoot someone if he had to. And honestly, I think a lot of people put in that situation, if they had to defend themselves, that they would. So it all matters to me on context. I can't say that, you know, I don't sit in Jason's shoes. I don't sit in Robin's shoes, right? I don't sit in Council Member 12, Ward 12, Audrin Chowdhury's shoes, or Shake Ties, right? But I will say this though, right? Is that when AIM protesters, when they were talking about homelessness, they did the same thing to VTOL and Rainville. You know, they concluded into getting what do they call that? HROs, you know, restraining orders. So we have to play a level field. I can't speak on their safety, how they felt, because I don't sit in their shoes. I don't sit in their seats, right? Yeah, right. I agree about self-protection too. I'll always agree about self-protection. So I can't really say how somebody takes somebody's words. We all understand as people that it comes down to context, and it comes down to how people perceive it. So I want to get back to the video, but I do want to say is that it all depends on people's context and how they take it.
To be gay. I'm gonna finish. That needs to be acknowledged. The move today should have never gotten to this point. The move today was addressing mismanagement in a department. It is about addressing the department that has utterly failed our residents to keep them safe. This department has failed our residents. It has not kept them safe. And the fact that it has gotten to a point where people are getting threats, where sexist language is being used and homophobic language is being used, that is not what this item was about. It was about transparency, and it was about addressing the concerns of our community members. Go outside every day. They will tell you that people do not feel safe, and that this department needs to get its act together. Thank you.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to state I can't support this item today. You know, when we first stood this program up in 2018, I, along with many of my colleagues, said, before we start pouring all this money into this department, let's build the department so they have the capacity to do this work. And we are seeing the challenges of trying to fly an airplane while building it is creating all of these problems. And so from what I am understanding from the commissioner who is serving as the interim director at this point for the neighborhood safety, there have been several measures put in place to ensure accountability for this program, and I'm willing to trust our professional staff to do that work. So I can't support this item today.
Before I call on Councilmember or Council Vice President Chuck, I just want to remind folks, this is not a public comment period. Please keep the peace in the crowd. Let us have this debate about an important policy issue before us. Al, please.
Thank you.
Council Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, earlier after my comments, there was a question asked about whether the facts that I was stating, just repeating words that had been publicly stated, were somehow politically motivated. So I want to start by saying that I know it is, one, a violation of the ethics code for a local official to engage in the conduct that has been alleged in the public and up here on the dais, bias, favoritism, of those who receive city contracts. And that, two, it is a violation of the ethics code to not promptly report that conduct. And I believe it is incredibly important for members of the public and this body to have a complete understanding of whether there is any evidence that supports the very serious allegations that have been made. I have yet to see any evidence being provided to corroborate that this action before the body is somehow motivated by council members having an issue with specific vendors that were chosen or not chosen. No evidence to corroborate such a thing. But if that were true, there needs to be evidence provided to us so that we can then take the appropriate action here, so that a member that has engaged in that type of conduct recuses themselves from this vote here today. And I continue to just hear silence or no answers in the face of these questions. I will say that when I'm receiving emails from constituents asking me to investigate a member of this body, which to be clear, I don't have the authority to do, I do feel, though, as an obligation, that I have an obligation as a member and as an employee of the city to be as well informed in making decisions and to get to the bottom of such a serious allegation. So if I continue to see the commissioner not present any evidence that have been repeatedly made, then that, I think, should be stated publicly. I am going to just end by saying that I think this is incredibly important work. We have so many residents that rely on GVI and YGVI services. They have the potential to save people's lives, and that is at its core. The preservation of that work is what we're really talking about here. And I will say I continue to be really disappointed that we have allegations being made about unnamed council members with engaging in inappropriate behavior without any evidence being provided. That on Monday, this body, while in committee, asked several times in several different ways whether we could get an accurate number of the contracts for GVI and YGVI, an accurate budget, and we were repeatedly told that that these contracts were in the process of being negotiated, and then we come to find out later in the week that actually the negotiations were complete, the contracts were ready, and that they had been actually submitted to the council earlier in that day for a committee meeting that's coming up. So those questions that had clear answers were unanswered, and I think that's incredibly troubling for a department that has been subject to a lot of scrutiny, and rightfully so, because of systemic mismanagement and structural issues in delivering its critical lines of service. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilmember Wansley.
First, I would like to reset the conversation around my violence prevention funding resolution that's before this body, because since the budget meeting this past Monday, the conversation has devolved into everything except the root of the problem that this proposal is attempting to address. The neighborhood safety department is not functional, and that dysfunction has simply put residents' safety at risk. In 2024, homicides decreased across the country while they increased here in Minneapolis. And I wish that weren't the case, but that is the reality. And the Neighborhood Safety Department has not produced any data on their outcomes for 2 years. And that should alarm every single person in this room, every single resident in our city, and anyone listening. And violence prevention programs like GVI have been able to reduce homicides by double-digit margins in cities across the country. And it actually used to do that here too. Under Mayor Betsy Hodges, Minneapolis violence prevention programs received national awards. But for the last 2 years, through 2 directors and 2 commissioners, we have received zero data on the efficacy of these programs at the city of Minneapolis. And national violence prevention programs and organizations, one specifically, have scored us 39 out of 100 for our work. And this has been raised dozens of times with the Neighborhood Safety Department and the Office of Community Safety Leadership and with the mayor. And these conversations have happened in public, in various committees, and with several meetings with leadership all of last year and in this year. And Commissioner Barnett could have addressed these concerns at any time by providing evidence that his department could administer these programs effectively to keep our residents safe, but that did not happen. And I would not propose moving these programs to the county if there were that evidence that they were working well here at the city. And I asked the county for help in the shared interest of our public safety, in the shared interest of keeping our residents safe, and they were willing to assist. And rather than see this as a positive opportunity and an expression of our continued collaboration around this work, because this is not new, the administration chose to spread misinformation and alleged that the proposal was motivated by corruption on part of council members. And these false accusations by the administration was echoed by residents, and that led to anger, to confusion, and ultimately it did lead to threats against some council members. And I, of course, feel very unsettled that the administration chose to spread false accusations about me and my colleagues, and that those accusations escalated to a point where even death threats were made against some. And that said, this conversation has gotten completely out of control and is simply distracting from the current issue at hand, which is the continued failure of the Neighborhood Safety Department to correctly administer programs that keep our residents safe. And this conversation has also led to many more questions than answers. Several statements made by staff has illustrated a continued lack of transparency and just misinformation. As Council Vice President noted on Monday, Neighborhood Safety Department staff stated that the contracts were still in negotiation. But literally, by 11 a.m. that morning, they had already submitted our RCA to put those programs on a public committee agenda that's going to be taken up on Monday. Also, they said they couldn't disclose the amounts for those contracts. They had to put that amount in that RCA by 11 a.m. They could have disclosed that to us, and they did not. Also, there were obvious questions about budget transparency related to that. And staff shared for the first time for many of us that NSD's entire budget is not broken down by program. And this is concerning because we all know that they have no data to support how resources for programming should be distributed. And NSD has now also explained how they're going to transition clients working with current contractors over to new contractors, especially considering that they are at limited staff capacity. There's 9 vacancies within this department, and one of those positions is the GVI and YGVI program manager. And most significant of all, NSD has still not articulated any metrics for their goals for these programs and contracts. How many clients are they anticipating to serve? Indianapolis had a 34% reduction in homicides using GVI. I'm sorry, I'm speaking. Is our goal the same percentage, lower or higher? Those are the metrics that we're simply asking for in the data, and we have not been given that. So I have had many conversations with my colleagues. That's been expressed in the debate up here. And while some of them have been made aware of these general problems with this department, some are catching up in real time. Also, it seems like the public, some members of our public are catching up in real time. And I do want to move at the speed of my colleagues. So with that, I am going to motion or ask my Council Vice President to withdraw her motion for approval. And then I'm going to make the motion, if you accept, to postpone indefinitely.
Mr. President, I'm happy to withdraw the motion to approve this item today.
Is there any objection to that? Council Vice President is withdrawing their motion. Council Member Wansley has moved to postpone indefinitely. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Wansley, did you want to speak to it?
Yes.
Further?
So just to give clarity about that motion, so what that means is this proposal in its current form is no longer on the table. But I want to ensure that the vendors who receive these contracts that we were not told about, even though the administration had that information as of 11 a.m. of this Monday and did not provide that to us, and I'm pretty sure that was very intentional. We want to ensure that those vendors who have received those contracts have as much stability as possible to do their work effectively without fear of anything changing with their contracts. That said, I do continue or will continue to use my full oversight authority to continue bringing much needed scrutiny to the Neighborhood Safety Department as it relates to the administration of GVI and YGVI programs and the wide range of management and operational challenges that we've been experiencing. And when the YGVI and GVI contracts come to AO this coming Tuesday, I am working with Council Member Chavez and Council leadership to have those be referred to the Committee of the Whole so that the entire body can get answers to the many questions that have surfaced during this entire conversation and have the information that they need to make an informed decision about, do you truly feel confident that this city, this department can actually effectively run these programs and keep our residents safe. Also in Cal, I will be expecting NSD leadership to make presentations on their plans to run these programs and to basically do your work, do your homework and show what metrics of success looks like for these programs, because it has not been shown this entire 2 years and there's been no data to affirm that. And I also want to be very clear that there is no robust, once again, specific data right now that we have that NSD has shown that these programs are keeping our residents safe. So by making this particular motion, it allows me and any other council member to explore our options for addressing any continued failure from this administration to keep our residents safe and to address any potential ongoing mismanagement of these programs. So with that, I will conclude.
Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start by saying that I'll, obviously support the motion. I hope that we all will. But I did want to take a little bit of opportunity just to talk a little bit about why I think that this discussion is a valid discussion, not necessarily the way it's transpired up here on the dais, but why I think this discussion is a valid one. First of all, I want to say that contrary to some of my colleagues who I respect every single one of my colleagues, this is not about vendors who didn't get paid. This is not about specific vendors. It has to be said. Folks might not want to hear that, but it's not about that. This doesn't fly in the face of anything, right? There's no explicit accusations of former Director Nelson Brown of corruption, but I think that there is a recognition that things were not going well. There were questions. There were questions about the service delivery. There were questions about payments to vendors that were never fully addressed. And if there were valid reasons for them, they were certainly elusive to council. There were questions about the fidelity to a model, any model, when it comes to delivering these services. And those questions were never fully addressed. I think it's really important for us to state that. And so if there were answers, if there were valid answers to those questions, then communication needed to be much more thorough than it was. And because it wasn't, you've got council members trying to solve problems that are really apparent and with seemingly no answer. I think it's also really important to address just a few other things. This move, and the reason that I supported it, would be a temporary move. I don't know if that was ever mentioned in this discussion, but it would be a temporary move. And so I think that that's just really important for us to set context as we engage in, with all due respect, a lot of hyperbole up here. It's important that we keep in view what this motion was and what it wasn't. And this was not a permanent discarding of this service to the county. It never was. I think that we have a vacancy in the leadership of this department, right? All those outstanding questions that maybe had good answers that we never had access to. But regardless of whether they did or didn't, we then had the leadership of the department seek another opportunity, right? It's not an issue for folks to go seek other opportunities, but it is when you've got a department that is in such a uncertain state of things. And so we have emerging leadership within the right that are new. I've been very impressed with the new and emerging leadership in NSD. I've been very impressed with Deputy Director Lakes and others that we've seen give presentations in front of us. But we've just got so many moving pieces, and we've got so many questions, and we don't see a lot of communication. I think that it is not unreasonable for the council to say, let's take a little off your plate for a little while. That's my view. A few things that I want to address that I kind of didn't want to have to talk about, but I feel like is important to talk about is that, Reverend McAfee is a Northside leader. Reverend McAfee is going to speak his mind. We all know that. I hope we understand that, and I hope we know that. I'm somebody who's always going to be comfortable being yelled at by Reverend McAfee, even though I did come late to that committee, and so I had to catch mine in the hall. But I'll say that, like, I trust Reverend McAfee's intentions, but none of us can deny the impact that some of your words had. I don't know if he's still in here. And so I think all that can be addressed, right? That I trust your heart, but my colleagues don't know you. And so the impact of our words, regardless of our intention, always have to be addressed and have to be taken up. And if folks do not want to level set, I respect it, right? If folks don't want to make amends, I respect it. Some of the things that folks are saying they feel are very real. But I hope that we can get to a point where we can understand each other, because the solution can't be that community members, regardless of whether I agree with them or not, and we know that I don't always agree with our good Reverend here, but we can't get to a state where the solution is that community members just can't come and address us, right? We can't get to a place where it's only talk to us nice or don't talk to us at all. We're not always going to be talked to nice. I'm not always going to, on the north side, we're not always going to be talked to nice. But at the same time, when you make threats, when people feel that the impact of your words were homophobic, that they were sexist, that they were an attack, I think that me knowing your heart, I think that you're a big enough man to address it and lean into that criticism. And I think that we got to be big enough to lean into any criticisms we receive as well. With that, I'll say, look, there's a motion before us. I'm going to support it. But I also think it's important to just state that regardless of whether we took this vote or not, there are valid reasons to support a move to the county. There are valid reasons to oppose a move to the county. And I think that the way that the discussion has played out up here hasn't always been the most productive. Folks might get mad at me for always trying to play peacemaker, especially since I haven't always played that role on this council. But I think that it's important that if anything's going to get done, that there needs to be much more communication. People can't dig their heels in and say, I'm sick of them. I'm sick of that person. I'm sick of council. I'm sick of staff. So we're not talking. Because who the hell does that serve? It doesn't serve anyone for either side of the admin or council to dig in that way. Councilmember Wansley rightfully recognized problems in this department and utilized her leadership to seek a resolution to that problem. I think that should be commended. It shouldn't be disparaged. If it's not the fix, fair enough, right? If it's not the fix, fair enough. But the answer cannot be the status quo either. So with that, I'll be supporting this motion, and I hope the rest of my colleagues will as well.
I put myself in queue. I actually think that Councilmember Ellison addressed a lot of the thoughts that I had in his statements. But I mean, even at its most innocent, what's happened here is just a fundamental failure of a communication. I was actually able to spend time with Reverend McAfee on Friday night during a ride-along where we were walking through the actual work on the ground. And even just in that brief interaction, it was very clear that what he's hearing from the city is different than what we're hearing from the city as leaders of the city. And there's just a fundamental breakdown in how communication is happening. And that just can't work in an area where what's happening on the ground is dynamic. What's happening on the ground, we have some proven models here, but it's not always going to be a template that works in community, right? This is about relationships. This is about trust. This is about communication. And this entire debate on this dais has demonstrated a lack of trust, a lack of communication, a lack of healthy relationships. And we're not going to transform safety in our city in the absence of trust, communication, and connection with community. That's just not going to happen. And I think this also elevates a broader conversation as well around how we need to be moving forward with a culture of accountability in the city of Minneapolis. And our police department has been at the forefront of this conversation, not always in the best light, but we have treated the police department like they're on some island that has some sort of unique failure. No, they're the department that carries the guns. Their failure has life and death consequences. But that breakdown in trust, that breakdown in communication, that breakdown in connection to community, that persists throughout this institution. It is a demonstration of the failure of government broadly. And sure, MPD is really easy to put up on the wrong pedestal when it comes to those failures. But we actually have to look deeply on ourselves here in every department on these failures. This is not unique to MPD. And now it's just coming to light here in NSD that these failures exist. And we cannot have the response to naming failure be defensiveness and throwing around accusations. Had we had deeper communication throughout the last year on this topic, we would be in a different place right now. It's understandable why this chamber is packed with a bunch of frustrated people, because y'all haven't been told the truth in the same way that we haven't been told the truth, because we're not in community with each other the way that we need to be. And so I'm really grateful to Councilmember Wansley, not only for starting this debate through the action of moving money to the county, but also through the foresight of saying there's some work that needs to happen to repair. And we're gonna postpone this item so that we can do that repair. And so I'm very grateful for your leadership on that, Councilmember Wansley. Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, President Payne. I really did not want to have to follow after you, but I feel like this is my one opportunity to get to speak to the item. First and foremost, I think that I agree with what you said about a lack of information given to everyone in this room, and I also think that there's a shared frustration. There's just genuinely a shared frustration. Like, what I heard on Monday is that our people are dying. And you're absolutely correct, and it breaks my heart. And in my own ward, like, yesterday morning, there was 6 incidents that happened. Someone in my ward got shot in the face, right? And that should have never happened. They were looking out into the alley and they got shot in the face. There should have been violence intervention that was there. We should not see our young people not having productive places to go, where they're finding a way to build community through stealing cars and building clout with their friends. That's not okay. These young kids that I got an opportunity to learn about alongside Councilmember Payne or Council President Payne on our ride along, I see my younger brother in them, right? They're just at the start of their life trying to figure out what to do next, and they're at a point where they don't have these places where they're getting mentorship, where they have leaders to look up to, where they can see themselves in a future career. And it's very possible for us as a city of Minneapolis to help these young people, right? I know that folks here and then folks in our police department, folks in community, folks at the county know these kids by name. They know their parents, they know their grandmothers, they know where they live, they know the places where they hang out. It's very possible for us to address this situation. And YGVI as a model, as Councilmember Wansley and others have named, has been really, really successful if executed well. And that's what this item is about. It is a fear that in our current system as a city, we will not be able to execute it well on the behalf of our community. And that's what's sounding the alarm about this about. That's why we're debating moving it to Hennepin County. It was stated that Neighborhood Safety Department was not able to give us 2 years worth of data. You shouldn't accept that. None of us should accept that. They should be able to give us the data and information to prove that things are being successful. A Star Tribune headline in August 2021 of 2024 was, amid allegations of illegal practices, Minneapolis will start auditing violence interrupters. That was August of 2024. It shouldn't have taken that long. I think that's something we can all agree on. It shouldn't take us coming to this moment to call that out and for us to move in action to say we want to hand over nearly $1 million to another entity, but that's where we're at. Right? Because we want GVI and YGVI to work. And that's why I was so supportive of this, because that ride along showed to me when I'm looking at a case file of a kid with 40 incidents that didn't need to happen, we're not looking at this with the urgency that we need to, and the system that we have in place isn't working. And that's not a reflection of any of the hard work I know that the new members of the Neighborhood Safety Department are trying to do. I think they're constantly working hard to catch up and build the plane as they're flying it. But there needs to be accountability with the fact that things haven't worked. And that's why we have a commissioner of public safety. That's why we have a mayor, because their leadership as an executive is not only to direct the operations, but is to hold accountability for actions or inactions. And that's what I want to see here. My job, I don't get to control the operations. It's to legislate, to budget, and to do oversight, and to discuss and communicate with you as the public what we're thinking about, and to make sure that service delivery happens for our young people and for our community. And it is also relying on me making a commitment to keep on doing the work and keep on doing these ride-alongs and start showing up on the block and understanding better what's going on. Because I want kids in our city to have a future. I really, really do. And I really believe that we can change course and make a difference here. But I don't have the confidence based off of 2 years worth of evidence that our current structure of Neighborhood Safety Department is going to change because a settlement agreement happened and now there's a pinky promise that these contracts are all of a sudden going to work out. And that's why I felt it would be a more stable place to move it to the county that has robust auditing, that has much more staff, that has relationships already built with a lot of the folks that community is familiar with. I'm happy to support postponing today. I know that we're going to see in next week the contracts that Neighborhood Safety Department has selected come before a committee. I will continue to ask questions to understand how they're actually going to execute it well. And again, it's not ascribing any disbelief that the people that are staffed currently to be able to do that work. I just think they're far too understaffed, and the accountability at the top of leadership hasn't been there to repair the issues that we've seen thus far. That's the end of my comments. I'm willing to figure out how we resolve issues together and find peace with one another. That's always my goal. And I hope we as a body can learn a lesson from this and figure out how this reshapes and resets our work. Again, I thank Councilmember Wansley for calling the question on this and bringing this forward, because it was a necessary discussion that we needed to have.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Mr. Chair, Council can't hold itself above or outside the level of accountability and trust that it expects from the administration. I too appreciate Councilmember Ellison's words. We should have an equal and level playing field, and we need to work together to serve the community and our constituents. It is frustrating, even has been angering to me and others, that finally Neighborhood Safety Department is ready to move forward, finally ready to move forward with this new level of rigor. And many of my colleagues wanted to move backward into the past, go call up things from the past when they are finally ready to move forward. How hard and demoralizing is that for our administration to try and push forward change? So yes, we have several new members of the Neighborhood Safety Department, some really committed ones if you've seen their presentations, and those that are committed to continue the work that the former director did well. For those that didn't go and listen to the presentation at the last AEO meeting, listen to their presentation, or listen to their presentation from last fall, where they said last fall that there would be new contracts in place starting April of 2025. It's on a slide from last fall. We talked about this. Postpone to when? Let's just delete this from the agenda. I'll agree to postpone indefinitely today, but I appreciate you're just removing this. It was presented again, even last council meeting. The AEO meeting next time will have the approval of contracts. As Chair Wansley of that committee said, she'll move it to committee of the whole. But I hope we will be moving forward with these because it demonstrates all of the new rigor and work that's been done through this process. Thank you.
Seeing no one left in queue, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the postponement of item number 4.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vito.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice President Shabtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and before we move on to our next committee, I think we have all deserved a little bit of a recess here. Let's reset and come back in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Interesting. And just like Ben said, you know, we all know there's administration shift about to happen, especially here in Minnesota. Wow. And there's really been some big things that have came out since they had this city council meeting this morning. So if you see, and maybe nobody has, that Omar has, well, Tina Smith also retired, but Elon Omar has been named as serving somebody that was, yeah, see, here you go with the, okay, let's see. So we're going to get to seeing his, so here you are with, oh, that's the U.S. Department of Education. I hate Twitter sometimes. So he's at the Feeding Our Future. So the Defense Council had just mentioned that U.S. Rep, that Elon Omar had served food at Safari Restaurant at some point. Show 7-figure checks to Safari signed by Amy Bach, CEO of Feeding Our Future. Checks of this magnitude continue on and on. Ebert says correct. Wow. Saeed spent $3.5 million on real estate in the span of 2 weeks. All child money. Damn, that's crazy. Wow. I wish I could live like that. That's insane. We're supposed to be out here feeding kids, and yet we're fraudulently spending money. That's wild. And then motherfuckers act like they didn't know that they was gonna go to jail. That's crazy. That just shows me that people don't care. We don't even. There's such a thin line between right and wrong. You know, because everybody wants to talk about today. We got here today for a reason, my nigga. We got here today for a reason. The same people, that's what people don't understand, right? And this isn't, I'm on neither side of this, right? I'm on the side of the people, because in my eyes, we got screwed by a program for so long in Minneapolis that's the pedigree. You know corruption. It doesn't matter if it comes from the church. It doesn't matter if it comes from your city council. It doesn't matter if it comes from the mayor's office, the police. It's all corrupt. And we were allowing it. We allow it because the way that we vote. We allow it of the way that we vote. And that's crazy. That's wild. When are the people going to finally get tired and be like, you know what? Because we see what's going on in Illinois with Tiffany Haynard and her boyfriend, her friends. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's with so many people. Right. Everyone's involved. Thank you. Everyone. It's not just, you know, that's the one crazy thing is everybody's so quick to talk about Diddy and Jay-Z, but y'all not ready to talk about Ilhan Omar. You're not ready to talk about, I'm gonna see if I can pull this up. Right. Millions. Have the millions the groups have gotten since the 80s helped? It was the same convo in the 80s. I agree. That's the one crazy thing that nobody wants to talk about, because you got to talk about the history. You got to talk about the history, because the same players, some of them are on the other side of the gun. Some of them were on the other side of the gun. Some of them were leaders, gangbangers. That's, you know, that's what's crazy to me, right? And I knew Ellison, the way he spoke, I knew he was going to be that way because of the fact of your dad. Your dad's not going to go against the grain. Your dad's not going to go against the grain. Come on, man. You get they're scared about Bob Kroll becoming U.S. Marshal and all these, you know, the same thing with Tina Smith saying she's not going to run for re-election coming up. Well, that just opened up a seat. And people know they're going to jail. They know it. They know. That's the one crazy part of all of this, right? You can't run. And, you know, you can do so much in the dark, but everything comes to light sooner or later. Sooner or later, everything done in the dark is going to come to light. And people need to understand that. It's okay, to be honest. We need some of these skeletons to come to light, this darkness. Because if not, how do we get better as a community? Because I will tell you right now, you know, everybody's talking about, oh, ICE, this, you know, they're getting rid of the Department of Education. This is a time right now where we should come together, not divide, but come together as people. Right? I see all these people, oh, they're going to get rid of this. They're going to get rid of that. Oh, man, I'm just like, these people so dumb. But I get it, because they've been led to believe that. They've been, you know, and until they look at the facts. And they're like, wait, so you mean to tell me he's doing all, yeah, when you look at the shit. And now I get it. I'm not going to sit here and say that these people ain't racist. These people ain't has some kind of phobias or some isms, because they do. It doesn't matter if it's colorism. It doesn't matter if it's shit. Motherfuckers coming out here with straight Nazi flags, swastikas. You know, Kanye was selling them. Like, I don't get what people are doing. It's like, are we so bad as people, as a community, that we're just stuck on divide? That we're stuck on division, and we don't even care about unity, because we understand that unity is going to solve the problem. It's a solution. It's a solution, because I heard Audrey up there talking in Minneapolis about, and that wasn't her district, that whole crime spree yesterday where the man was shot in the face. Everybody's seen the video. That thing has got almost like 2 million hits on Twitter, and I think about almost that same amount on Facebook. And it's like and even the media has played it. So we don't, I mean, it's pretty sure it's gone viral now. And it's like, are we going to do something? Because I will tell you this, is that everybody's talking about all this money to YVI and GVI and all this shit, right? There's nobody even in those positions. Nobody's in those positions. So how are we fighting something? You know, that's the one crazy part of it is, and like a lot of individuals have a little bit stepped away. And I do believe that there was a lot of people at this Minneapolis City Council meeting today. It wasn't just, you seen, they didn't really show the crowd, but I'm going to, throughout the day, going to show some pictures and shit. But you can see there was a lot of T-shirts. It wasn't a lot of everyday citizens. It wasn't everyday people because some of them got jobs. They can't fight the good fight. They have to go, yes, master, you got to go to work, master. I see people, that's the one crazy thing of it is like, you know, Nupa in Rochester was hit by ice and one of their stores is closed on Civic Center. And it's been in the community for a very long time. Oh, I'm sure he was. Yeah, I'm sure he was. And that's just paid. That's paid. But it's a good thing because I do believe that this gets him in the media. This gets you know, some questions that people have been wanting to ask in the community. You know, I do believe that maybe some answers will get solved. You know, that's the one crazy part is like there's killers in our streets that people know. And we're okay with it. We have our city entities have contracts with them. They're city employees. So, right. The main question needs to be how many times has McAfee gone to a public school in Minneapolis to fix education to prevent youth violence? Oh, I agree. It's all about the money. You know, anything that's the one crazy part because I didn't even figure out DA had me, Bullock had me blocked until just this morning. Or maybe it wasn't this morning, it was the other day and yesterday. And it's like, damn, do I really wow, you know, people run so hard from the truth. And I'll tell you why DA blocked me. It's asking these questions about, you know, you're paid. You're on some of these boards, especially when it came to, I found out he worked for when Flowers and who's the police chief? They had a show and they were suspended. They sued. And there was a couple of things changed. But one of the things was that DA was on the board. So there was a lot of questions. But then I seen what, you know, DA's paid and he's, you know, he's a film director. He's seen him at a couple of things with Ellison, especially in Winston Way. I got to talk to him. And it's always, it's about money. It's not about, you know, community. It's not about unity. It's about how can we divide. And you didn't see DA is, yeah, you know, in my eyes, it's like, how can you fix something that is so broken? You have to, you know, and I understand where Elon is. You know, some people are like, oh, this is what y'all wanted. The only thing of it is y'all wanted to do it. Y'all wanted to eradicate bad police officers. It's the Republicans doing it. It's not the, you know, people might say, oh, you're doing it in a racist way. You're doing it in blah, blah, this. This is what y'all voted for. Y'all mad that there was somebody that got up there and said, you know what? There's people coming into our country. They're this, they're that. And y'all getting mad that he said, you know, we're going to get rid of all these people. We're going to get rid of them. Y'all thought he was going to do a Joe Biden. Y'all thought he was going to do a Kamala Harris. What you see is what you get with him. And I'm not even, you know, it didn't matter if it was the Kamala and Tampon Timmy. I knew that I was going to be doing the same shit that I'm doing today that I was doing It didn't matter if it was Trump. I'm still gonna be out there fighting him because Black lives do matter. And it's not about civil rights. It's not about being seen equally. It's about that equity. It's not about this diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because why is the racial wealth gap so bad? Why is it that any kind of stats or data that when it comes to being African American and Black, we are always at the bottom of the totem pole. And then we're seeing people that come from other countries and races that when we grew up, we never seen before. You know, just like I've said on there plenty of times, I really didn't start noticing Somalians until like 1992, 1993, because it was me, and some Native Americans, and some Mexicans, maybe some Asians. Not until I was like middle school that we get to see more of that Laos, that Korean, Chinese populations. But then I had to think about every time that I started seeing other groups, other ethnicities, there's always something going on in the world. So just like with 9/11, just like with Desert Storm, there's always been something that's been going on that's made diversity change inside my schools, because now you go to certain areas. I mean, just like I was talking this morning to my wife, you know, you go to a certain restaurants nowadays, it ain't even, it's all people that nobody wants. First of all, I want to say this with NUPA, y'all, you know better. Come on, man. You didn't care about the people's paperwork, right? The documentation, because it's easier to pay people that have the wrong documentation than it is to pay the people with the right documentation, because it's kind of like blackmail. You got something over them and they got something over you. Why are they going to turn you in when they can right now, they're going to be, just like we see, they be deported. But then we feel it, us Americans, us people that, you know, I will say this, because I went to Denny's yesterday with my dad, and goddamn, the prices are insane. That's crazy. Wild as hell, prices are getting insane nowadays. If you're going out to eat, treat that shit as delicious, as a treat, as something that is sacramental, because wow, god damn, prices is for one person, it's like $20 now. And it's like, god damn, that's crazy. Prices is getting insane. You know, eggs, Denny's hasn't started at 50 cents or 75 cents per egg extra surcharge or whatever, but it's probably coming the way that, you know, I've seen somebody up in Brooklyn Center, they went to the Cub, I think that was Matt Branch, it was, and he went to go get some eggs, and he showed a picture, he's like $10.49, that's in the cities, $10.49 for some eggs. And I'm like, damn, that's almost 50 cents an egg. And I'm like, that used to be one of the cheapest things you can go get. And now it's like one of the most expensive ass items on your breakfast trays. You know, motherfuckers over here you showing videos for alternatives to egg whites and egg yolks. And I'm like, man, listen, I didn't want your funny ass chicken, because, you know, now there's clone, there's other types of, we see videos of people putting their hands through chicken thighs, and like, yo, I ain't never seen that before. So we know something's going on, but people just don't want to face facts and don't want to look at it, as we can see. So it's been a hell of a day today. It's crazy. Right. No, I agree with you, Robert. Mr. Ryan. Frey is probably going to win the election and for mayor. And even though there's all this corruption, and but you know what? It all depends on this Feeding Our Future trial, because how involved was Mayor Frey? How involved was your decision policy, legislative in this? So there's a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? So you never know how it's going to go when, you know, it comes to politics. You know, because I would tell you like this, I didn't honestly believe that I thought Trump would win, but I didn't think that he would. But I think people are ready for a change. They see how their communities are. And you can't be mad no more. You know what I'm saying? That people, this is my thing of it is, right? Because I'm starting to see it as they give you so many choices, and it's the choice of lesser evils, right? So you see when it comes to Frey, he's seen as a, and I honestly don't even know what the fuck Victor Martinez is, but I seen a tweet go out and they were talking about, I bet you Victor's over here getting mad because Ellison didn't show up on time or whatever. And, you know, it doesn't take much to actually win an election in North Minneapolis because there's not many people that actually do vote. You got to be somebody that the community knows. And if, to be honest, if the leaders don't get behind you, you're kind of screwed anyway. So, and especially if you're somebody that's been like Marvina, you know, somebody that has been fighting for a brother, and then you come up to that brick wall. I'm gonna call it a brick wall, because that's how they act. They act like they want to act like they're a brick wall when they honestly they screw us over. And we should be the ones having to go through that shit when it ain't us, because they care more about political parties than they care about the people. And once we truly get past that, you know what I'm saying, I think we will honestly be in a better place to probably, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say that though, because I think honestly people been trying to do what they can, you know, and everybody doesn't have the same knowledge. Not everybody has the same capacities, because we're all different. We're all different learners. And maybe because somebody is smarter than the next person, or gets it and has a better understanding, they feel more privileged. And we definitely got to get out of that thinking, because we're not better than the next person. You know, I've seen a lot of people talking about, you know, especially when it came to Jason Chavez and talking about he gay. Man, listen, buddy, nobody cares who you're sleeping with. That's what you do in your own time, right? That's what you do when your mama and your daddy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. You're an elected official that fights for everybody, not a certain type of community, not a certain type of people, but everybody. And right now we're not doing that. We're not doing it. It's you have a more globalist and Marxist mentality than about an American and about keeping that inside our prairie, inside of our village, because I see a lot of individuals don't understand of what happened with the Native Americans before we became Minnesota. They want to talk about we're on stolen land. It's not kind of actually stolen. You know what I'm saying? When you look at, they were bamboozled. There was a language barrier. There was, you want to say stolen, that means that they just took the shit. No, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? That they were bamboozled. There was a language barrier, and there was where people didn't understand everything that they were being told. So with that being said, man, I'm going to get up out of here. Y'all have a great day. It's Thursday. I'll be back Friday. So win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. And y'all have a great one, man. And I will be back tomorrow.
I want you to look to your neighbor and say, neighbor, let's go get this paper. Yeah. Alright. Fresh fresh up out the shooting range. On my way to make some more money, I advise you to go and do the same. Really though, here I go, spending money from a year ago. Two things I never seen before, and that's a UFO and a miracle. Silly me, so self-centered, I don't fuck with niggas, I don't really know. If you really know, I come from slanging more O's than a bowl of Cheerios. With it all, I get it all. Self-employed, shit, I been a boss. If everybody get to eat, then you know I'm sliding through like dental floss. I done lost a couple soldiers, they ain't never been to war. Still it's hard, been involved in this trap shit so long, I could hold a seminar. Must be one of those fortunate to never step foot on the prison yard. Based on a true story, baby, I lived it all and I did it all. Cruella DeVille said it's more than one way to go and skin a dog. Pockets thicker than Serena Williams, except what I'm serving ain't a tennis ball. Made it up out the gutter, still intact. Watching my granddaddy cook crack. That was my first chemistry class. I was like 10, maybe 11. Damn. They ain't shit to be proud of. A nigga really just saying I ain't get the picture cards I was dealt. I just had to work with what was in my hand. So it ain't really all about the cards. It's more about how you play them. Boy, I hope I leave footprints so you always know where I stand. You started with a bank loan. I started 28 grams. I started